Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, where we uncover the fascinating stories behind the coins that often go unnoticed, coins that many people think are ordinary but can actually hold incredible value. Today, we are going to explore a true classic in American numismatics, a coin that has been part of our history for more than 8 decades. I'm talking about the 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1939. At first glance, it may just look like another old penny, the kind you might find in a jar of loose change, but once we peel back its history, design, and collector appeal, you'll see that it is so much more. Stay tuned until the very end because I'll reveal exactly how much this little coin has been known to sell for in pristine condition, and the number will absolutely amaze you. The Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most beloved and widely collected coins in the history of the United States. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin was groundbreaking because it was the very first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it displayed a strong yet humble image of Lincoln on the obverse and a simple, symbolic wheat design on the reverse. For nearly half a century, from 1909 until 1958, these wheat pennies circulated across the nation, and today they remain some of the most popular coins among both new and experienced collectors. Now let's focus on the year 1939. America was still feeling the aftershocks of the Great Depression. The economy was beginning to recover under President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs, but times were still tough for many families. Abroad, storm clouds were gathering as World War II loomed on the horizon, though the United States had not yet entered the conflict. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny represents a slice of this history. Ordinary people carried it in their pockets while buying groceries, newspapers, or gasoline that cost just a few cents. Every 1939 penny that survives today is not just a piece of copper, it is a silent witness to the struggles and hopes of that era. The design of the 1939 penny is timeless. On the obverse, the right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln is surrounded by the words "I and God We Trust" above, liberty on the left, and the year 1939 clearly displayed on the right. Depending on the mint, some of these pennies also include a small D mint mark for Denver or an S for San Francisco, while those struck in Philadelphia have no mint mark at all. On the reverse, the coin displays the classic wheat design, with 2 stalks of wheat framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Above it, the Latin motto E pluribus unum reminds us of the nation's unity, out of many, one. This design is simple but powerful, and it embodies both American tradition and the enduring legacy of Lincoln. Millions of 1939 pennies were struck, and at the time, they were simply used as everyday money. Most of them went through years of circulation, enduring scratches, dings, and wear until the fine details wore away. That's why finding one today in pristine, uncirculated condition is so exciting. A coin that has survived more than 80 years without losing its original copper-red shine is an extraordinary rarity. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins like these, because condition is one of the most important factors in determining a coin's value, but condition isn't the only thing that makes the 1939 penny fascinating. There are also error coins and varieties that collectors crave. Some 1939 pennies feature doubled dies, where the letters or numbers appear double due to a mistake in the minting process. Others may be off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, or coins struck on defective planchets that give them unusual shapes or thicknesses. These kinds of minting mistakes are rare, and they turn an already collectible coin into something truly unique. An error coin is like a fingerprint, no two are exactly the same, and that uniqueness adds to its value. Another key detail for collectors is color designation. Copper coins are graded not just by their sharpness of detail, but also by their color. Over decades, most copper coins naturally darken into a chocolate brown tone, which is considered brown in grading terms. Some retain a mix of original luster and toning, called red-brown. But the rarest are those that still shine with a brilliant, fiery, red color, as if they had just been struck yesterday. A 1939 penny in full red condition is incredibly rare and highly prized, and these coins can command much higher prices than their darker-toned counterparts. Think about it, most 1939 pennies have been through countless hands and pockets, spending decades in circulation before being put aside in coin jars or lost in drawers. But once in a while, a coin emerges that looks untouched by time, preserved in mint condition for more than 80 years. That's the kind of coin that gets collectors' hearts racing. And that's the kind of coin that can fetch truly eye-popping prices at auction. So now comes the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While ordinary circulated 1939 pennies might only be worth a few cents to a few dollars, the rarest examples in flawless mint state condition have sold for a jaw-dropping $76,400. Yes, you heard that correctly, $76,400 for a single 1-cent coin. Imagine finding one of these hidden away in an old collection or sitting unnoticed in a coin jar. What once bought a newspaper or a handful of candy could today be worth more than a brand new luxury car. That's the incredible magic of coin collecting, transforming the everyday into something truly extraordinary. So the next time you come across a Lincoln Wheat Penny, especially one from 1939, take a moment to look closely. Check for mint marks, inspect its condition, and don't forget to watch for unusual errors. You might just be holding a small piece of American history that is far more valuable than you ever imagined. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most iconic coins in American history, a coin that has captured the hearts of collectors for decades, the Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1941. Now, at first glance, this might look like just another old penny, but when you start peeling back the layers of history, design, and collector demand, you'll realize that this little copper coin holds a story far bigger than its size. And if you stick around until the very end, I will reveal just how much one of these 1941 wheat pennies has sold for, a number that might just leave you speechless. Let's take a step back in time to 1941. The United States was emerging from the grip of the Great Depression, and the world was on the brink of entering the chaos of World War II. While the nation hadn't yet officially joined the conflict, the economy was changing, industries were gearing up, and every aspect of daily life was touched by the uncertainty of the times. During this period, the Lincoln Wheat Penny was already a familiar part of American currency. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the wheat penny remained in circulation for decades, becoming one of the most beloved and widely recognized coins in the country. The 1941 issue is particularly interesting because it was produced in massive numbers, yet within those millions of coins lies the potential for rare varieties and high-value gems that collectors are constantly chasing. The design of the coin itself is simple yet powerful. On the obverse, or front, you see the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president and one of the most iconic leaders in world history. His face is a symbol of unity, perseverance, and the fight for freedom, values that resonated deeply during the uncertain years of the early 1940s. Around him are the words, "In God We Trust," at the top, "Liberty," to the left, and the year 1941 clearly stamped to the right. On the reverse side of the coin, you find two wheat stalks curving inward, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. Above it, the phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, serves as a reminder of the unity of the nation. This wheat design, used from 1909 until 1958, gave the coin its nickname and remains a favorite among collectors. Now, while millions of these coins were minted in 1941, not all were created equal. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest share without a mint mark, while smaller numbers came from the Denver Mint, marked with a D, and the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. For collectors, these small differences in mint marks can mean everything. Some mints produced coins in better quality, while others had striking issues or errors that turned ordinary pennies into rare collectibles worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Condition is another huge factor when it comes to value. Most 1941 pennies you might stumble across today will show signs of heavy circulation, scratches, dull color, and worn-down features. These are still neat to have, but they won't fetch much beyond face value. However, if a coin has been preserved in excellent condition, what collectors call mint state or uncirculated, then its value skyrockets. A coin with crisp details, original luster, and no major flaws is what collectors dream of finding, because those are the coins that become prized centerpieces in collections. Even more exciting are error coins from 1941. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes occurred, creating unusual variations. Examples include double die errors, where the design elements appear double due to misalignment, or off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was struck incorrectly. These errors are rare, and when paired with the already historic 1941 issue, they can command astonishing prices at auction. Collectors love error coins because each one is unique, almost like holding a piece of the mint's history frozen in time. Think for a moment about how these coins circulated. In 1941, a single penny still carried real buying power. Kids could use a few pennies to buy candy, newspapers were just a few cents, and small daily transactions often relied on coins like these. That means millions of people handled them, and very few thought to keep them in pristine condition. Decades later, the scarcity of well-preserved examples makes them incredibly attractive to collectors who want a little piece of 1940s America. Holding a 1941 wheat penny isn't just about owning money. It's about holding a direct connection to a time when the world was changing, when Abraham Lincoln's legacy still guided a nation through struggle, and when everyday Americans use these coins without knowing their future value. So what does all this mean for collectors today? It means that if you have a 1941 wheat penny, especially one in superb condition, you might just be holding something far more valuable than you think. While most circulated examples may only bring in a small amount, the rarest and most pristine ones have shocked collectors and auction houses with their prices. And here comes the part you've been waiting for, the ultimate reveal. Believe it or not, one of these tiny Lincoln wheat pennies from 1941 has sold for an incredible $56,300. That's right, a single penny, worth just 1 cent when it was minted, has turned into a fortune for one lucky collector. It's an unbelievable leap in value and a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest items can hold the greatest treasures. So the next time you're going through an old jar of coins or searching through a collection passed down from family, don't overlook those wheat pennies. Take a close look at the date, check the mint mark, and examine the condition carefully. You never know, you could be holding the next rare gem that changes your life. Today, we are going to take a journey into the world of the Lincoln wheat penny, focusing on a year that came right in the middle of one of the most defining times in American history, the year 1942. Now, to most people, a penny is just a penny, but to collectors and historians, a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny can be so much more. It's not only a piece of copper with Abraham Lincoln's portrait stamped on it, but it's also a window into a time when the entire nation was consumed with war, change, and sacrifice. And if you stick with me until the very end, you'll hear about one of these little coins that sold for an astonishing amount, $50,800. Let's set the stage. The year is 1942. The United States had just entered World War II following the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. The country was rallying together like never before, industries were shifting into wartime production, and resources were being diverted to support the military effort. Even something as small as the humble penny was affected by these changes. Just 1 year later, in 1943, the U.S. Mint famously produced pennies made of steel instead of copper, since copper was needed for ammunition and wartime supplies. But in 1942, the Lincoln wheat penny was still struck in its traditional bronze composition, made mostly of copper with a small amount of tin and zinc. That makes the 1942 issue a fascinating bridge between the earlier bronze pennies and the unusual steel cents that came immediately afterward. The design of the coin is one that had already become iconic by the 1940s. On the obverse, we see the strong, steady profile of Abraham Lincoln, a president whose legacy of leadership during the Civil War was especially meaningful during a time of global conflict. His image faces to the right, with the words, "In God We Trust," above, liberty, to the left, and the date 1942 to the right. On the reverse, the famous wheat stalks curve gracefully on either side, framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, arched above. It's a simple but powerful design, one that had been in use since 1909 and remained until 1958. Collectors call them wheat pennies because of that distinctive reverse design, and they're among the most popular coins ever struck in America. What makes the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny so intriguing for collectors is not just the history behind it, but also the different varieties and mint marks. These pennies were produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, which produced coins with no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. While millions were struck at each location, the number of coins that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition is far smaller. Over the decades, most of these coins were used in everyday life, spent on newspapers, candy, or even war bond drives. By the time they were pulled from circulation, the majority were scratched, tarnished, or heavily worn. That's why today, collectors get so excited when a 1942 penny surfaces in near-perfect condition, with its original red luster still shining like it did the day it left the mint. Another fascinating element to the 1942 penny is the world of minting errors. During this period, with the mint working overtime to produce not only coins but also metals and other items for the war effort, mistakes did happen. Some 1942 pennies are known to have double die errors, where parts of the design appear doubled, making the coin instantly more desirable. Others may show off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or weak strikes that make certain details look faint. These errors are rare, but when they do appear, they transform an ordinary wheat penny into a collector's prize. Every error is unique, and that uniqueness is exactly what collectors crave. Think about it for a moment. In 1942, a penny was still worth something in everyday life. It could buy a stick of gum, a piece of fruit, or even go toward the cost of a newspaper. Soldiers carried them overseas, children collected them in jars to help the war effort, and families used them daily without ever considering that someday a single penny could be worth thousands of dollars. That's the magic of numismatics. Every coin carries a story, and sometimes those stories turn into incredible value. When evaluating a 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny today, collectors look at several factors: the mint mark, the condition, and whether the coin has any rare errors. A circulated coin in average condition may only be worth a small premium over its face value, but the real treasures are those that have survived in mint state with sharp details and bright, original color. Grading services like PCGS and NGC assign grades on a scale from 1 to 70, and the higher the grade, the higher the value. Coins graded MS65, MS66, or even higher can command jaw-dropping prices at auctions, especially when they also have that rich red color collectors adore. Now, here comes the part you've been waiting for. While most 1942 wheat pennies might only bring in a few dollars, the rarest and best-preserved examples have stunned collectors around the world. In fact, one of these 1942 Lincoln Wheat Pennies, in extraordinary condition, was sold for an incredible $50,800. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin that once bought a stick of gum or a piece of candy has become a small fortune for one lucky owner. It's almost hard to believe that a penny, something so small and often overlooked, could be worth so much. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. History, rarity, and condition all come together to transform an ordinary object into a priceless treasure. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny, don't just toss it aside. Look closely at the date, check for a mint mark, examine its condition, and you might be surprised at what you find. Who knows, you could be holding on to the next coin that changes your life. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating chapters of American coinage, a story that blends history, design, wartime struggles, and collector passion all in the shape of a tiny copper coin. Yes, we're talking about the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1945. Now, at first glance, this coin might look like just another old penny, the kind your grandparents may have had jingling around in their pockets, but don't let its small size fool you. Behind its simple design lies a powerful story, and for collectors, some of these coins have turned into incredible treasures worth far more than a single cent. Stick with me until the very end, because you'll be stunned when you hear just how much one of these 1945 Lincoln Wheat Pennies sold for, an amount that could absolutely change your perspective on what a penny is really worth. Let's start by setting the scene. The year was 1945, a year that marked the end of one of the most devastating conflicts in human history, World War II. America had been fully engaged in the war effort since the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, and by 1945, the country was both exhausted and triumphant. Soldiers were coming home, factories that once produced tanks and weapons were shifting back to making cars and consumer goods, and the nation was preparing to enter a new era of prosperity. Every aspect of American life was touched by the war, including the coins people carried in their pockets. During the early 1940s, the mint even experimented with using steel instead of copper for pennies in 1943 because copper was needed for ammunition and other war supplies. By 1945, the pennies had returned to their traditional bronze alloy of mostly copper mixed with tin and zinc, but they carried with them the weight of a world at war and the relief of its ending. The design of the 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the same as the classic design that began in 1909. Created by sculptor Victor David Brenner to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse, or front side, you see the bold, dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln himself. His face is instantly recognizable, a reminder of his leadership during America's darkest days of the Civil War, which felt especially meaningful as the nation endured the challenges of a global conflict. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," to his left the word, "Liberty," and to the right, the date 1945, with or without a mint mark depending on where the coin was struck. The reverse side of the coin carries the iconic wheat design that gives this coin series its nickname, the Wheat Penny. Two wheat stalks frame the center, where the words, 1 cent and United States of America, are boldly displayed. Above it, the phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, reminds us of the unity of the states, a phrase that resonated deeply at the end of the war when Americans were pulling together to rebuild and look toward the future. This design, simple yet elegant, stood as a daily reminder of the country's values and resilience. Now, let's talk about mint marks and production. The 1945 wheat penny was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, which did not use a mint mark, Denver, which used a small D mint mark, and San Francisco, which marked their coins with an S. Millions upon millions of these pennies were produced in 1945, and they circulated heavily across the nation. Children used them to buy candy at corner stores, families used them during rationing and war bond drives, and servicemen might have carried them overseas in their pockets. With such heavy use, most of the coins became scratched, dull, and worn. Finding a 1945 wheat penny in pristine condition today is not easy, and that scarcity is part of what makes high-grade examples so valuable. Collectors pay close attention to condition, or grade, when it comes to coins. A coin that has been in circulation for years, showing scratches, discoloration, or loss of detail, will not be worth much more than its face value. But a coin that was carefully preserved, kept out of circulation, or stored away in mint condition tells a very different story. These uncirculated coins can retain their original luster, sharp details, and beautiful red or reddish-brown color, and that's what drives collectors into bidding wars at auctions. Coins graded at the top of the scale, such as MS-65 or higher, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and demand. Even more exciting for collectors are error coins, and 1945 has its share of them. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes slipped through. Double die errors, where the lettering or date appears doubled, are especially valuable. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other striking anomalies can also make a 1945 penny stand out. Error coins are like fingerprints, no two are exactly alike, which makes them especially attractive to serious collectors. The combination of historical significance, classic design, and the possibility of rare minting errors makes the 1945 wheat penny a very desirable coin. Think for a moment about the role this penny played in daily life. In 1945, even though inflation was much lower than today, a single penny still had real buying power. Kids could buy a gumball or candy for 1 cent, and families pinched every coin to make ends meet during the final months of the war. These pennies clinked in the pockets of soldiers, factory workers, farmers, and shopkeepers. Each one tells a story, and holding a 1945 wheat penny in your hand today is like holding a small piece of that history, a reminder of victory, sacrifice, and resilience. Now comes the exciting part. the value reveal. While most 1945 wheat pennies you'll find today in circulated condition might only be worth a few cents or maybe a couple of dollars, the rarest and most pristine examples can be worth astonishing sums. At a major coin auction, one extraordinary 1945 Lincoln wheat penny in mint condition sold for an incredible $48,500. Yes, you heard that right, $48,500 for a single penny that once bought a piece of candy or a newspaper. It's almost hard to believe, but that is the magic of coin collecting. Coins like the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny remind us that value is not always about size or face value, it's about history, condition, rarity, and the stories that coin carries with it. So the next time you come across an old wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely at the date, check for mint marks, examine its condition, and you just might find a hidden treasure. That 1-cent piece could turn out to be worth far more than you ever imagined. Today we're focusing on a true American classic, a coin that many people have seen, some still keep in old jars or boxes, but only a few truly understand its potential value, the United States 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1949. Now, at first glance, this little coin might look just like any other old penny, but it carries with it history, design, and the chance of incredible worth. If you stick with me until the very end, you'll find out just how much one of these small copper treasures has sold for, and I promise, the number will surprise you. Let's set the scene. The year was 1949. America was a nation transitioning from the hardships of World War II into a period of growth, optimism, and change. The war had ended just a few years earlier, and soldiers were returning home, families were rebuilding, and industries were booming once again. People were buying cars, houses, and consumer goods that had been scarce during wartime. The United States was entering what many would later call its golden era, a time when the American dream seemed within reach for millions. And yet, even in the middle of all that change, everyday life still revolved around the small coins people carried in their pockets, including the Lincoln wheat penny. The wheat penny itself had already become a familiar sight by 1949. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the design had stood the test of time for decades. On the obverse side of the coin, the face of Lincoln is engraved with strength and dignity, a lasting tribute to the president who preserved the Union. Above him are the words, "In God we trust," a phrase that carried deep meaning for a country that had just endured war and was now building a new future. To the left of his portrait is the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date 1949, sometimes accompanied by a mint mark. Flip the coin over, and you find the iconic wheat design, two sheaves of wheat curving along the edges, framing the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. Above it all sits the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. It's simple but powerful, a design that Americans carried with them every day and a reminder of unity and strength. Collectors to this day admire the beauty and symbolism of the wheat penny, and the 1949 issue is no exception. Now let's look at the production of this coin. In 1949, the Lincoln wheat penny was minted at 3 different locations. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins with no mint mark, Denver produced coins marked with a small d, and San Francisco issued coins marked with an S. Together, these mints produced hundreds of millions of pennies. To most people, these coins were simply tools of commerce, used to buy candy, newspapers, and other small necessities of daily life. Very few people stopped to think that saving one of these shiny new pennies in perfect condition might one day be worth a fortune. Over time, most of the 1949 wheat pennies circulated heavily. They were passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, until they became scratched, worn, and discolored. That is why, today, condition is everything when it comes to value. A coin that has been in circulation for years is still a nice keepsake, but it won't command a high price. On the other hand, a coin that has survived untouched, kept in mint state with all its original luster and sharp detail, can be worth an incredible amount. Collectors especially prize coins that maintain their bright red or reddish-brown tones, because copper darkens over time, making true red examples much harder to find. Beyond condition, collectors also search for unique variations and errors from the 1949 pennies. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes occurred, and these errors are what truly excite numismatists. Double die errors, where the date or lettering appears doubled, are among the most desirable. Off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and clipped planchets are also possibilities, each one creating a coin that stands out from the millions of regular issues. Error coins are like hidden gems, they are rare, they are unique, and they can command extremely high prices in the market. Imagine for a moment how these coins traveled. In 1949, a penny could still buy you a stick of gum or a handful of candy. Kids collected them to trade with friends, shopkeepers counted them at the end of a long day, and families saved them in jars, never imagining that decades later, a single one might be worth thousands of dollars. Each coin has its own story, a connection to the people who used it during a time when the United States was stepping confidently into a new era of prosperity. When collectors evaluate a 1949 wheat penny today, they carefully examine the mint mark, the strike, and the condition. Grading services use a 70-point scale, with higher numbers meaning better preservation. A coin graded MS65, MS66, or even higher is considered exceptional, and that's where the big money comes into play. Coins that combine perfect condition with rarity or unique errors are the ones that truly make headlines at auctions. And now, the part you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1949 Lincoln wheat pennies in circulated condition might only fetch a small premium over face value, the rarest examples, preserved in pristine mint state, have astonished collectors with their worth. In fact, one extraordinary 1949 wheat penny sold at auction for an unbelievable $65,500, yes, you heard that right, $65,500 for a single penny that once jingled in someone's pocket. It's almost unimaginable, but that's the incredible world of coin collecting. Something so small, something so ordinary, can become a life-changing discovery when history, rarity, and condition all come together. So the next time you're looking through an old jar of coins, or sorting through a collection passed down from family, don't overlook the wheat pennies. Take a careful look at the date, check for mint marks, and pay attention to the condition. You just might be holding on to a treasure worth more than you ever dreamed. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of the 1949 Lincoln wheat penny, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another journey into the world of rare and valuable coins. Thanks for joining me today, and until next time, happy collecting.